Hello and welcome to the Motoring News Zone, the show where we take you through all the biggest stories in the world of cars right now. This week, General Motors have shut down production at a plant in Mexico for the second time in 2 months. Ford could need to recall 700,000 vehicles across the United States, and major trucking companies have declared bankruptcy en masse in America. Find out why and a whole lot more in today's show. If you're watching on YouTube, skip to the timestamps in the video description below to see the story that you're most interested in. So, without further delay, let's dive in. It's fair to say that the auto industry right now in North America, and in particular in the United States, is rather unsettled to say the least. Some good things have been happening, some bad things have been happening. It just depends on how you look at things at the end of the day. Tariffs are coming into place, EV incentives are going away, and a lot of manufacturers are either pulling out of the US or they are relocating more of their facilities towards the United States with all that in mind. General Motors, though, what they have done recently is very much left people scratching their heads. As two of their biggest pickup trucks, they have paused production at a factory in Mexico. But why? Let's have a look, guys. Have a look at what's happened here. I got the full story for you here, as always. So production of 2 of GM's most important pickup trucks will pause at a major plant in Mexico for part of the next month in August. While GM describes the moves as routine, the temporary shutdown has drawn attention, especially considering the central role that these models play in the company's lineup. The Chevrolet Silverado and the GMC Sierra will be affected by this. They will not be assembled at the Silao plant during the first 2 weeks of August 2025. Although GM has framed the decision as part of its regular operations, the lack of a detailed schedule and the popularity of both trucks has raised questions. What is going on here? While news of the temporary shutdown emerged earlier this week, it's understood that work at the Silao facility will be paused for the weeks of August 4th and August 11th. And while GM confirmed the shutdown, it didn't provide information about precise scheduling for this. Importantly as well, this won't be the only time that the production of the 2 pickup trucks has been halted. This has happened a bit recently. Auto News reported that the plant also idled for the first 2 weeks of this month as well in July, and according to General Motors, scheduled down weeks at the GM Silao are part of a standard operating process focused on optimizing production at our manufacturing complexes. So what has happened here? Well, it could be any number of different things. It could be any number of things, really. I mean, Tesla, of course, paused production of some of their vehicles not too long ago at their Gigafactory when their sales were struggling. Perhaps it's something like that. Perhaps the sales of these vehicles have not quite been as expected, and right now they have a surplus of them, and to compensate for that, they are going to actually not produce any for a little bit of time. I mean, that's a bit unlikely given the popularity of, in particular, Chevrolet Silverado, but it is a thought. On top of that too, we can't ignore the fact that more manufacturing for General Motors is going to move to the United States. Maybe that is something to do with that, although any kind of production of their vehicles, I believe at those new plants, are just going to be SUVs. They might be pickup trucks as well, in fairness, but that is not expected to happen anytime before 2026. So it's not a case of them producing things in the US and in Mexico and they're wanting to scale down the things in Mexico. I'm not sure on this one, guys. It could be any number of things. If you've got contacts in General Motors, if you work for General Motors and you're comfortable talking, hit us up in the comments. Let me know what you got to say about this. I want to hear your thoughts. Is it just a sign that General Motors are struggling? It could be anything, really. I want to hear what you have to say. It's not exactly confidence inspiring, and I wouldn't say it's really particularly normal operating procedure to shut down your factory for 2 weeks, the one that produces 2 of your biggest and most important vehicles. It's not unheard of, but it's a bit unlikely. I feel like there's something else going on. Ford have made a big mistake, and this concerns one of their most popular vehicles. But what is this mistake? Which vehicle is this affecting? I've got everything you need to know here on the channel as always, guys. So it's fair to say that Ford have had a lot of good reputation to rely on over the decades. They're probably the most recognizable car brand in the United States, and they pioneered a lot of different technologies and production processes, even in their early days under Henry Ford. And it's been a good year for them overall so far. They've sold almost 1 million vehicles as of the end of May 2025 for the year so far, which is a 6.1% year-on-year increase on the same time last year. And for the month of May itself, their sales were up over 16% compared to May 2024. And the kind of vehicles that are driving this increase really are the big ones, the SUVs and the pickup trucks. SUVs made by Ford saw a 23% sales increase to 83,000 alone in May 2025, with the Explorer selling over 20,000 units alone. And trucks saw an increase of over 10%, 11.2%, to sell 121,000 overall in May 2025. And in fact, this was their best month of May since the pandemic. But things are not all going well for Ford. There are some problems that are going on. I mean, more money, more problems, right? And 700,000 Broncos have been recalled by Ford due to a potential fire hazard in that vehicle. Now, recalls for vehicles are very common. Ford and GM have been doing a lot of them in recent times. But a potential fire hazard, that is very much a big problem for a vehicle. This hasn't been hitting the sales figures for Broncos just yet, though. They've sold over 30,000 in the month of May alone this year. And after the Bronco returned in 2021, it's proven to be a big hit, beating the arguably more established Jeep Wrangler for the 7th consecutive month. But if you've got a Ford Bronco Sport that was built between 2021 and 2024, it's probably going to be recalled very soon because of this fire safety hazard. This also affects their Escape vehicles, which were made between 2020 and 2022, as well as the Cougars that were built between 2019 and 2024. And the cause of this fire hazard is essentially a cracked fuel injector that could leak fuel into the engine and therefore increase the risk of an engine explosion or a fire. In total, it's estimated that over 694,000 vehicles will be affected by this. In total, it's estimated that around 694,000 vehicles could be affected by this. And this will cost Ford at least $500 million to actually remedy, according to most estimates. And a lot of experts are predicting that their second quarter results on July 30th, when they are actually published, they will show a significant decrease in terms of the share price as a result. And a lot of gains that Ford have actually been making have actually been offset by the cost of tariffs. Now, Ford are adapting to this. They are, of course, going to be producing more of their vehicles in the United States from parts that are also made in the US as well. But right now, a significant portion of their vehicles that are sold in the United States are actually made in Canada and in particular in Mexico as well. So that is going to be hitting them in the short term. In the long term, it'll probably not impact them as much. But these sales figures have very much helped offset that, because without those strong sales, Ford would really be struggling right now. But yeah, your thoughts in the comments below, guys. Do you have one of those vehicles I mentioned before? A Bronco Sport, a Cougar, or an Escape? Have you noticed any issues with the engine? Get your thoughts in the comments below. Tesla have revealed a new car. They have revealed their Model YL, a stretched 6-passenger vehicle. Here's everything we know about this new vehicle from Tesla. So effectively, the Model YL is a 3-seating row extended version of the Model Y. And interestingly, it's going to go on sale in China first of all. Tesla revealed the Model YL on Chinese social media platforms earlier this week with a teaser image of the vehicle. But you can find official images on the filings with the Ministry of Industry and Information Technology if you so wish. The car is around 7 inches longer than the standard Model Y and has a 6-inch longer wheelbase. That according to Car News China. The seating arrangement, interestingly, is 3 rows, like I said, but it's not going to have 7 seats like a lot of 3-row vehicles have. It will have 2 seats on each row, going all the way back. As you'd expect, it's an all-wheel drive vehicle and it is rated at around 456 brake horsepower in terms of the power that the motors will deliver. So that's one of the highest out of any Tesla vehicles, unless I'm mistaken. However, the YL is not currently slated to launch in the US, although I imagine that has to change at some point. But some critics are already slating this vehicle, saying that the Model Y already doesn't have enough headroom or legroom for large families, and that this will not be that much better. But we'll see what happens when it officially launches in China. So can this be the thing to turn things around for Tesla in terms of their sales, their slump in sales? Get your thoughts in the comments below, guys. You can't knock them for trying, but is this the right path to go down? I want to hear what you have to say in the comments below as always, guys. This is just absolutely bizarre. You know when you see a headline, you have to do a double take, and you have to check whether it's actually real before going into it. This is very much one of those, because a business owner in New York City has installed a 50-foot steel fence on his property, cutting off the sidewalk and 10 parking spots in the process. Okay, let's have a look at this, guys, and see whether he has the right to do this and where we kind of go from here. Because I imagine the local residents are not too pleased with this, but let's see if they've got a case. In a move that angered local businesses and neighbours, a long-time business owner in Astoria Heights put up a massive steel fence that cuts off a public sidewalk and roughly 10 parking spots. Who runs Michael Della Vecchia and Son General Contractors on Hazen Street, has paid around $25,000 to install the permanent fence in April along 19th Road. He said years of illegal dumping and a recent fall that landed him in a lawsuit were justification enough, that is according to Fox 5. The fence spanned 50 feet of sidewalk and stretched several feet into the street itself. Della Vecchia saw no issue with it, pointing to a city tax map that he said proves the sidewalk and part of the roadway fall within his property lines. However, unsurprisingly, the city authorities are not exactly too keen on Della Vecchia's approach to this problem. The Department of Transportation issued him with an encroachment notice of violation on April 17th, giving him 30 days to get rid of the fence. Della Vecchia said that he wasn't going to take the fence down before his court date. It's not the first time that Della Vecchia has been involved in local controversies, though. He put up temporary barriers and no standing signs after a woman reportedly tripped on the sidewalk and sued his business in January 24. This time things weren't much different. Della Vecchia's neighbours and nearby business owners had concerns. Former City Council member Costa Costanides, what a name, Costa, love that, who lives nearby, called the fence dangerous and ridiculous. He's creating an issue, Costa said to Queen's Post, pointing out that the fence made turning onto 77th Street more dangerous. I've seen some terrible car accidents on that corner. That fence is only going to make things worse. The fence also created headaches for drivers. The day it went up, several parked cars were trapped inside the enclosed area. A Reddit post showing at least 3 boxed-in vehicles went viral, with residents claiming they had no proper notice. One commenter said they parked their car 2 days earlier, only to find it fenced in with no way out. But Della Vecchia said he posted signs in advance and placed barrels along the curb. The digital uproar spread on social media, where users were calling for city action and criticising what they saw as a selfish move that put private concerns over community welfare. But Della Vecchia pushed back against that sentiment. Why do I have to consult people to do something on my own property, he said. And unsurprisingly, what cannot be doubted is the fact that this has had a negative impact on a lot of the businesses in that local area as well, where foot traffic is very important for local stores. If you can't walk into the store, if you have to go onto the road to get around this fence, then a lot of people won't want to risk the journey and instead go somewhere else. I mean, it's at New York City at the end of the day. You're not going to be short for shops. And this also, of course, opens the possibility for lawsuits against Della Vecchia. If they can prove that these changes have directly impacted their business, they could well sue for compensation. Whether they be successful or not is another matter, but it is definitely a possibility that they will at least try. So, interesting, guys. I mean, listen, I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on law in the United States, nor law in New York State either. However, if there is a plan that does show that that is his property and is his land, then in a sense, he could well have a case to be able to do what he has done. However, creating a bit of an eyesore and obstructing the sidewalk as well as parking spaces and also boxing over people's vehicles, yeah, I'm not so sure that's going to fly, to be honest, but I'll defer to you in the comments, guys. Let me know in the comments below. Is what he did legal? Is it right? Would you have done something similar if you were in the same situation? I want to hear what you have to say about this in the comments below. We're talking about tariffs again. I know it's been a few days, guys, but we've got to talk about the tariffs in the auto industry again. A lot of car companies, both in the United States and outside of the US, in terms of ones that are based in the US or outside of the US, they are all changing how they do things. Even the domestic producers of vehicles such as Ford and also all the General Motors brands, all of them are having to change up how they do things, because even though they made a significant portion of their vehicles in the United States, they of course didn't make a significant portion as well. And even those that are assembled in the US are not always made from parts that are produced in the US. If either of those boxes are ticked, they very much do get a tariff slapped onto any goods, including the vehicle itself. That of course increases the price, reduces their profit margin. It's not really what they want. They're effectively having to pay a tax on top of what they are producing, and no one wants to do that if they can avoid it. Now, when it comes to foreign manufacturers, some have paused production, some have stopped importing certain vehicles, while others have kind of doubled down and gone, you know what, we're going to focus more on the US. We're going to bring production to within the United States, and we're going to do our best to avoid the tariffs as a result. But let's talk about Volvo, the Swedish car giant themselves. How are they adapting to the tariffs? Let's have a look, guys. I've got the full story for you here on the future of Volvo in the US of A. Well, it's been good news for the shareholders of Volvo. Their share price jumped by 10% this Thursday, as the company's second quarter operating profit beat analyst expectations despite a sharp year-on-year decline. So overall, Volvo not doing too amazing, but compared to where they were in the very recent past, they're looking pretty good. Volvo is no longer truly Swedish though. They are in fact owned by the Chinese, specifically Geely Holding Company, and they reported that the second quarter operating profit, excluding items affected by comparability, fell to 2.9 billion Swedish krona, which is around 297 million US dollars. And that is down from 8 billion krona during the same time last year. So effectively, that is a huge year-on-year decrease. Second quarter revenue dropped to 93.5 billion krona compared to 101 billion krona over the same period last year. And while the price did peak at 10% increase on Thursday, it leveled out at an 8.2% increase at the end of the day. However, overall, they are still down by 20% overall for the year to date since the start of 2025. But what are Volvo doing in response to the tariffs? Well, they're doing a few things. They have started to pull out of the sedan and station wagon market in the United States, partly due to the decrease in interest for these types of vehicles from Volvo in the US. And of course, this all comes as that 27.5% tariff is placed upon vehicles manufactured. And of course, that comes as that 27.5% tariff is applied to vehicles that are imported from the European Union, which of course Sweden is a part of. And of course, they can't even get around it if they do it through China, for example. There's a 100% tariff that's being placed on Chinese electric vehicles imported into the US as well. But despite that, Volvo have said they are not going to pull out of the US market, although they do seem to be downsizing things. But guys, what do you think? Do Volvo have a bright future in the US? I want to hear what you have to say in the comments below on this as always. Gavin Newsom and President Donald Trump are again in conflict about investment in the Golden State. Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, has said that Trump's $4 billion cut to California's bullet train plans is, quote, illegal. We've got yet another lawsuit going on in American politics, guys. Why is it potentially illegal? Was Trump right to do this, or is Gavin Newsom in the right on this one? Here's the full story, guys. Here's the full story, guys, on the channel as always. Governor of California Gavin Newsom said on Wednesday that he condemned the Trump administration's decision to rescind the $4 billion in federal funding for California's planned high-speed rail network project, calling the move, quote, illegal and vowing to fight back. Newsom said in a statement, "Trump wants to hand China the future and abandon the Central Valley. We won't let him." The governor's response came just hours after the Transportation Secretary Sean P. Duffy announced the funding cut following what he described as a comprehensive compliance review by the Federal Railroad Administration that concluded that California's high-speed rail authority, quote, cannot meet its obligations under this grant agreement. It's time for this boondongle to die. This is the second time I've used this phrase today. I'd never heard of that before. Basically, it means a project that's a waste of time and money. For us here in the UK, HS2, High Speed 2, another rail network that is an absolute boondongle. It's never going to happen. Just a waste of taxpayer money. But hey, every country's got them. President Trump and I will always fight to ensure your tax dollars only go to projects that accomplish great, big, beautiful things. They love to use that phrase, don't they? The Federal Railroad Authority's review cited numerous issues with the plan, including a $7 billion funding gap, missed procurement deadlines, and inflated ridership estimates. Who knew? Government agencies lying. That never happens. Despite 16 years of planning and $15 billion spent so far, wow, $15 billion spent so far and nothing has happened. That is a money pit, isn't it? No high-speed rail link track has been laid, Duffy said. In a post said on Truth Social, Trump slammed the project as a train to nowhere. The railroad we was promised still does not exist and never will. This project was severely overpriced, overregulated, and, in all caps, never delivered, end quote. Newsom said that the CHSRA disputed the administration's findings arguing that the project is actively progressing with more than 50 major structures completed and track lanes set to begin. What's the truth, though? What's the truth on this one? People are saying there's nothing there, and other people say there is something there. Okay, maybe maybe some of the infrastructure's laid down. Maybe some of the railroad isn't. I don't know. Let's have a look. Cancelling these grants without cause is Ian Chowdhury, the CEO of this, said in the statement, cancelling these grants without cause isn't just wrong, it's illegal. There are legally binding agreements and the authority has met every obligation. End quote. The revocation comes amid broader Republican criticism of the rail project, which was approved by California voters in 2008 and originally promised as a high-speed service between San Francisco and Los Angeles. The project's cost has ballooned to more than $135 billion. My goodness me. With current efforts focused on a 119-mile segment from Bakersfield to Merced, projected to begin service by 2033. It's 8 years away. This has been in the ropes. This has been on the cards since 2008. The FRA also indicated it may seek to claw back previous federal expenditures and redirect funds to other rail passenger service initiatives instead. I mean, do I need to really say much on this, guys? $135 billion projected budget, and they've already spent $15 billion on what? Just standing around and looking like they're doing something. Yeah, I'd be a bit annoyed if I lived in California. I mean, this is federal funding. This is the entire US. You could be paying for this if you're living in the middle of the mountains in Montana or Utah. You know, your money is going to fund this. I'd be fuming, to be honest, personally. But your thoughts in the comments below, guys. Should California get a high-speed rail network? Does it need to be between LA and San Francisco? Some people have been saying that it would have actually made more sense to install one between LA and Las Vegas. That would actually make more sense. Your thoughts in the comments below, guys. Bad news, guys. A major trucking company has declared Chapter 11 bankruptcy over in the United States, which is a very sad piece of news indeed. Whenever a company goes under, it's never good news. A lot of people lose their jobs, their livelihoods. Some people would have been working there for decades, if not their entire working life. It's never nice. Happened to me. I've got made redundant years ago. It's a horrible situation. And I hope all these people find new work soon or are able to maybe take retirement if they are able to and they are of that kind of age. But let's have a look, guys. Let's have a look who's gone under here and where we go from here. And maybe if it's a sign of things to come or not. The trucking industry finished the first half of 2025 still trapped in the Great Freight Recession. Dry van truckload contract rates were unchanged from the same period last year, and trucking spot rates, which shippers pay carriers for a one-time shipment, finished the first half of this year below levels from a year ago. Long-haul truckload demand reportedly plummeted by 25% in the first half of 2025, with trucking becoming more of a short-haul delivery method for the final leg of freight involvement. Overall freight demand had faced unseasonal decline in April 2025. And according to Ryder and FreightWaves' State of the Industry report released on April 23rd, this was, quote, likely presaging further deterioration in the coming months. And so it has proved, as a big trucking company has declared bankruptcy, but it's far from the only one. Palatine 3, which is a female-owned and founded trucking company by Dolce Truckload Corporation, filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection on June 15th to reorganize its business and restructure its debts. And also major trucking and logistics company Elite Carriers and 4 affiliates also filed for bankruptcy on May 21st to restructure their debts too. Furthermore, Mount Prospect 3 filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy on May 14th as well. The biggest of the lot, though, that has declared bankruptcy is Daniel Trucking. They filed for bankruptcy in the Northern District of the state of Illinois on July 7th, listing $1 million to $10 million in assets and liabilities. They were founded in 2005 and they currently operate 58 trucks, with 59 drivers on their payroll. And they work in all of the lower 48 states over in the US. So yeah, sad news, guys. Some people have been saying that these are not actually that major a size of trucking company over in the US. If that is the case, let me know in the comments below, guys. But either way, it's not a great sign that so many have declared bankruptcy, particularly over the last 3 months, and especially after that report came out saying that this is, the kind of the tip of the iceberg. This is going to be a bit of a recession of the trucking industry, if anything, which is not a good sign, obviously. The prices of electric vehicles right now are plummeting in the United States. Why is this? Well, it's all to do with those incentives, that big, beautiful bill that is taking away the EV incentives that were in place in the US but are not going to be from the 30th of September. So right now, automakers that are selling electric vehicles, they are looking to get rid of them as fast as possible to try and incentivize people to actually go and buy them, and probably as well try and lessen the blow of the actual incentives not being there anymore. So, and also probably try and lessen the impact of those incentives going bye-bye. But let's have a look, guys. Let's have a look at the stats for this one because it is an interesting story. So company IC Cars looked at the 1 to 5 year old used cars, and for electric vehicles, their prices are very much plummeting. In fact, the average electric vehicle for this age range saw a decrease of 4.8% down to $31,354. Interestingly though, internal combustion powered cars in the same range, they have also gone down. In fact, by an even bigger percentage, 5.2% down to $32,525 on average. Perhaps not too surprisingly, the biggest price drops have been seen by Teslas. The price of a Model S has dropped by over 15%, and the Model X has also dropped by over 15%, down to $46,000 and $51,000 respectively. And some people are very much calling foul on the electric vehicle manufacturers. Some people are claiming that this is proof that EV manufacturers have been overinflating the price of their vehicles this whole time, and only now are they starting to do something about it, given those incentives are going away. So some people might actually think that those incentives going away, that $7,500 tax break for a new electric vehicle, might well be justified because the car companies maybe were taking too much profit. But that is a discussion for another day, guys. I mean, if you're going to get an electric vehicle, now is the time to do it. But given the fact that these prices have lowered so much, will they then soon go up when that September 30th deadline is hit? I have to see what happens, guys. Like, share, comment, subscribe if you want to see more like this, guys. Have a fantastic day wherever in the world today, and we'll see you very soon for much more car news, whether it's internal combustion, electric, hybrid, hydrogen. We've got some of those videos too. See you soon, guys.